Hello everyone. Thanks for tuning in. I'm at the office today. I have a client coming to the office. So just let me know if you do make appointments through this channel, if you're going to be coming into the office or if it's going to be a phone reading. If I don't hear anything, I'm assuming it's a phone reading because I give readings to people all over the country. If you are wanting a reading and you are not in the United States, just let me know that, and then you'll be sent a link to the portal that takes you to my offices, and then you can have a reading as well. Just use my phone number for the phone number, and then just give your real number in the notes, and then to send you a link to Doxy, and so we'll do it that way. Well, hello everybody. So I decided that I was going to throw for Sunday. I have a client coming in today, so I have to work from the offices. I apologize about the camera angle. So I want to talk about a couple things. Particularly I want to talk about bias, because bias is something I've really been meditating a lot about. My own bias, the bias of other readers, trying to be free of bias, trying to stay humble, watching our egos, because that's going to really harm. If you're really trying to learn this skill, we all have to be checking our egos. So it was nice to take a day off to just meditate and check in on myself and see if I was taking my own medicine. In case I do make mistakes, being able to go back, review stuff. So as we said in the previous video, it looks like Michael Cohen may have been the person that helped with this investigation. But today I want to talk about QAnon. People had asked me to talk about QAnon and what I think, and this is an intellectual assessment more than actually a remote view, what I think could be going on. QAnon looks like it looks like it has the stamp of being created most likely by Russia. It looks like it's a Russian propaganda campaign. So that's not the end of the conversation, because Russian propaganda campaigns usually have a function. We'd have to go back and find out when QAnon got started. And that's significant because it tells us that on some level the Russians knew the extent to which this investigation into international sex crimes, slavery, etc. were going on. It's been going on for a long time. We know, because it's become an issue in the United Nations, that sex trafficking, kidnappings, slavery, etc. have been a huge problem, particularly in Europe. And for a long time, the international community, the European community, was not taking it very, very seriously. These kidnapped women were being told that they were prostitutes. Nobody was coming in and rescuing them. Parts of the former Soviet Union they were broke, and so they were making their money on the black market, engaged in illegal activities, drugs, crime, sex trafficking, etc. What's interesting about QAnon is that it suggests that there's an attempt by the Russian government in order to infect a real investigation with a virus or misinformation. So then we have to ask ourselves, what's the function of the misinformation? Why would the Russians be so invested in this QAnon movement and infecting this investigation with the virus of misinformation? And one of the main ways that they created misinformation was they politicized it. And anybody who's studied pedophilia knows that it's not a political disease. It has nothing to do with politics. It's a mental illness. It's an addiction. It's someone who derives sexual feelings or attraction to children. And some have argued it's a type of addiction, personality disorder, stunted emotional growth. There's all kinds of theories about it. But one thing that I've never heard, as I've studied this, is that it has some leaning to any political party. It has no leaning to any political party. But What we do know is that it appears that Jeffrey Epstein was engaged in some very expensive pimping for people who were in positions of power. And then he may have used that as leverage in order to get ahead. When I did a remote viewing on Epstein's work as a teacher, I did not get the impression that the main purpose of being there was to, hit on girls, though he may have done that. The main purpose just seems to be that he was trying to make contacts in order to get further ahead in his career. And that seems to be what he did. However, the thing that's disturbing for a lot of people regarding the Epstein case is the fact that these parties were being used as leverage. People found out about the party. People may have gotten a hold of tapes of the party. And so it's those tapes, it's that blackmail that is the bigger issue. I suspect what happened in the case of Donald Trump was that the woman who accused him of sexual assault when she was 12, 13 years old at one of Epstein's parties, she was speaking to the press. She had spent some time in London. It would not surprise me if she had left the United States because of death threats, because she was open about the fact that she had received death threats, in which case she may have gone under the protection of British intelligence. I don't think it's a far reach for one's mind to go in that direction. And at that point, she probably would have given a deposition or been interviewed by British intelligence. I would not be surprised if that was the case. However, people that are hoping that Donald Trump is going to be taken down for pedophilia may be disappointed, because pedophilia is a really hard thing to convict somebody. It's very hard to get a conviction. However, what they probably will be focusing more on is not the pedophilia. What they'll probably be focusing on instead is this vault, David Pecker, and the fact that Donald Trump seems to have been using, instead of handing over this type of information to the FBI that children are being molested and abused, or that the head of the Southern District of New York had rape allegations against him, choking allegations, etc. Instead of turning that information over to the feds, it appears that Trump and Pecker were collecting the data in order to have leverage over people of interest. And that is the real investigation into Donald Trump with SDNY. And that's probably how they're going to take down Donald Trump. I'm sorry to say that pedophilia is kind of a side note, and it's not the main thing that blew open in the investigation as far as Michael Cohen was concerned. It was about these blackmail schemes and bribery schemes of people who are in positions of power. I get the impression that somehow the Clintons had a head up and were, because of their intelligence, their access to intelligence, they were probably debriefed for quite a while that this investigation was going on. I'm going to go ahead and shuffle the cards. I want to see what's going on with Donald Trump, but people had asked me about QAnon. I think it's just a virus. I think it's an attempt by, they're bots, and it's propaganda coming out of Russia in an attempt to color or distort an investigation into human trafficking. It's an international investigation, and I think it's gone on for years. And I think that's the real investigation. How Trump is involved appears to be blackmail schemes. All right. Let's go in, and I'm just going to check and see how Trump is doing. Has permission from Spirit to access his Akashic records. The base of the matter with him is that the karmic wheel and negotiation, it always comes up the same thing for a lot of readers. I think they're seeing something similar. It's this idea that his time is running out and that he has to negotiate something, and that his time in the presidency is coming to an end. Nancy Pelosi right over him. Remember, we had said that he was trying to bring Cups energy. He was defending Nancy Pelosi, but it was too little too late. The Five of Cups. This is interesting. This has been coming up a lot with Donald Trump, and it has to do with playing his cards. He's lost 3 cups. He's got 2 remaining, so he continues to try and play his cards. What's interesting about Trump's cards also is the fact that pretty much everybody that was part of his original cabinet, one by one, was taken out by the intelligence agencies, so that the only person left is Kellyanne Conway and his children, and Ivanka. And now it came out in the Mueller report, even Ivanka had met with Mueller. So the slow dawning realization of that this president is starting to come to is that pretty much everybody who worked for him either has spoken to the intelligence agencies, or once they gave testimony and could do so, they stepped down. He feels like a fool, inverted fool card regarding a crash that's coming or a crash that's right upon him. Foolish mistakes that took place have led to a crash, or a feeling of being abandoned, as if he is in the White House by himself, and none of the people that he went into the White House with, even the people that replaced them, remains. Further feelings of isolation, a death or transformation over where he's at right now, and a tremendous amount of loss of money, a feeling like he's being lied to by his lawyers, that his lawyers are continuing to drag things out simply because they're hoping to make money or continue to work with him. He's not able to get anything going. There's further blocks in terms of people who are willing to negotiate with him. You can see attempts to make offers or work with others leads to very little. He's being abandoned by his party. Inverted. The Seven of Pentacles inverted means that he could see tremendous loss of money. I think we could also see a downturn in the economy, I'm sorry to say, and we see him moving into an inverted Ace of Swords. He can't win. He's becoming increasingly isolated. And even Fox News has begun to pull back. He's now attacking Fox News on Twitter. So it's the slow erosion of his base. It's the power of these investigations. People like Robert Mueller, who play by the rules, they don't break the rules. They meticulously investigate over a course of years. It looks on the outside like they're losing, but what they're doing is they're doing the slow, steady, methodical grunt work of collecting data and doing an investigation, which is pretty impressive. But I remember I did a meditation last year where the intelligence agencies were congratulating themselves that the main phase of the investigation had come to an end, and then they were moving towards arrest, prosecution, building cases, etc. And that was last year. So that leads me to suspect that we are much further in this investigation than the public knows, and that a lot of questions will probably be answered after Mueller testifies. All right, thanks everybody for watching this Sunday video, and we will see you next time. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Just give it a whisk. We're going to put this aside for right now and grind up our bones. So the Vitamix is here and ready to go. We're going to open this up and put about 75% of the bones into the Vitamix. Okay, so now for the grossest part of this whole process, probably, when we grind up the bones in here until they are completely ground down. I actually add a little bit of water to give it some help. Needless to say, I wash and sanitize the crap out of this when I'm done doing this. So now what I do is I actually add this egg yolk mixture into the blender. Scrape it down just a little bit. One more time. All right, that's that. Looks like that pink slime crap we heard about on the news a while ago.